All right. Let's rock and roll, baby. Let's go. Let's do it. We are in a G3 storm right now. So we're going to go through all the data, space weather data. We'll talk about some of the other energetic factors at play. For example, this storm impacted right when we had the moon in front of the Earth. It was a little delayed. It was estimated to come in on the 3rd, and it actually came in right when that moon did perfectly enter into that Sun-Earth line. So if you are in the stream now, if you've popped in, please leave a comment. Let me know how I sound. Make sure everything's good. And yeah, we'll get started once I see some people in here. But in general, I woke up and I saw the fact that all of a sudden the KP index went to a G3 level. I was like, whoa, okay, let's go. And I did a live stream last night and I saw that we started to have enhanced solar wind coming in. So I talked about that in that live stream just briefly. Hey everyone, I see you all. Great, amazing, lovely, much love. Hope you're all doing well. And then, and I had an expectation that this geomagnetic storm is actually going to be a little bit more important than maybe forecasters thought. And I think some people thought it was not going to happen because it was delayed. And I knew the moon being there was going to be interacting with this to some degree. I talked about that in one of my videos. So wow, lots of people jumping in, amazing. Okay, so let us start with this storm and just look at the actual magnetic volatilities and the solar wind parameters, and then we'll come back to the sun and things of that nature. We're just going to run through some data, and we're also going to look at what's been happening for like the past 2 weeks, 3 weeks to get some context, because we're in a period of really enhanced solar activity right now. I mean, we're in solar maximum, but within that larger frequency wave of up and down activity, you also have smaller frequency ones. And so right now we are on one of these smaller ones stacked on top of solar maximum, which is why we're having such strong activity. And it's actually a good thing it's happening in August and not, let's say, in April or March or September, October, because if it was, then there would be a stronger connection with the solar wind to Earth's magnetic field, and these storms would be stronger than they are. That doesn't mean that September and October coming up doesn't mean that there's not going to be strong solar activity then, but it's possible. So we're kind of lucky right now with some of these dynamics because there's just an inherent kind of mismatch between the solar wind magnetic field and Earth's magnetic field, which is protecting us to some degree. Hello from USA, I see you all. So I just want to pull up the right one. Here is our HB30 index. And so this is a measure of geomagnetic volatility on a 30-minute measure. And actually, I'm going to step off over here. And you see that we went from green, big smiles, we're happy, it's nice, calm, magnetic field is stable. Magnetic field is always stable, but it can have these variations in the field strength based on the movement of plasma in Earth's plastosphere and also in Earth's ionosphere. And these create electric currents. Electric currents create magnetic fields. Magnetic fields induce electric currents. It's this reciprocal relationship that spirals down and up. And so when you get these strong electric currents in plasmas in Earth's energetic system, it creates these magnetic fields that cause it to undergo these swings. So it was nice, calm, there wasn't much movement. Then we saw this enhancement here. We went up right into a G1 category, and boom, here is our G3 storm. G1 is a level of 5 for the KP or the HP indices, and then G2 is a level of 6, and you start to get into that G3 range. It's got a new one printed. Start to get into that new G3 range when you have things going close to 7 and above 7. So 6.77, 7, and 7.33 would all be classified as G3. So there is our G3 storm right there. Amazing. I see you all in the chat. We'll do a Q&A at the end. It's not going to be long. I don't want to belabor this whole thing. I'm not going to take questions during the video. So thank you for that. And save your questions. Do at Stefan Burns. Type them in, and then they pop up really nice, and then I'll answer them. So that is our HB30 index. If we go to our 10-day plots, we see kind of the past 4 geomagnetic storms that we've been in. Let's scroll down to the HB60. This is a 1-hour measure. So it's a little bit of a longer time frame. Thank you for the super. Thanks so much. So here is the first G1 storm that we had back July 26th. Here's the second one that we had, the third one we had, and now the big daddy right here coming in today on the new moon, August 4th. And that was from a really nice solar storm that was pushed out from the sun on August 1st, and there was more that followed on the 2nd. So we have another one that looks very similar to this coming in very soon, it seems, unless the two combined, which is possible. They could have combined and then met up, though the model didn't show that, so I guess forecasters didn't think so. We will talk about that giant sunspot. It's now already on the limb. We have the full report here today, folks. So, nope, not that. Where is it? Either way, oh yeah, here it is. Sorry. Here's our chronograph. I thought I saved it as a video, but actually I just have it right here. So if I go back on this, we can look at this chronograph. We can look at this solar storm that caused this geomagnetic storm. And it shows up right at the beginning here. So we just hit play. I guess I have to refresh this. One moment, folks. We'll come back to this. Technical difficulties, I guess you could say. But luckily I'm on Ethernet here, so it's a pretty fast connection. So yeah, just lots of geomagnetic activity. It's been more than a week now. This is a 10-day plot. So it's not that we had one storm and then there was this like equalization period and we could kind of figure it out. It was, no, we have 10 days of continuous geomagnetic volatility at low grade with these G1 storms, and now we're finally ramping up into this G3 category with potentially that lasting for a while because of this second solar storm that we have coming in. Looks like we got our plot now, and so I can hit play on this. Actually, I'm going to slow it down though, or else it's too fast. And so right here, this is nice to watch though. You'll see why I want to show this, because it really shows these storms. That's the first one. That's what's impacting right now. And if you look at August 2nd, there's the other one that's faster. So they may have caught up, but I don't think they did. I think we're going to have a rapid sequence of 1, 2. Thanks for the super. And then you'll notice afterwards on the 3rd and on the 4th, it's basically quiet conditions. So we have some big sunspots rotating in. We can give that a look. Let's look at this one more time. We saw the first one. Here's that second one. Right there, that is also in the books. Thanks for the super. Thank you. So we have this kind of double sequence, and I think this first one is impacted. We'll see it one more time. This is August 1st right here. Here's August 1st. This is a storm that's impacting right now. This one's a little faster coming up in terms of velocity. Not a full halo, like it's a halo, but it's a lopsided one because these are coming off of the western limb of the sun, but they're still impacting the Earth, it seems, to a pretty strong degree. And on top of that, something that's interesting, if you look at our 304 angstrom view, is that we see these plasma filaments I was talking about. These guys here, and then some other things launched from the sun, and they really didn't show up in the chronograph. And so, like, it's kind of odd that they didn't show up because typically a plasma filament shows up really nicely. But in addition to those solar storms that you saw in the second, these came off recently. Watch this guy right here. You'll see it launched pretty nice, and there's something that follows. There it goes, and there's another one that follows right nearby. There, yeah. And so we get this double sequence from Earth center direct bullseye, though on the southern hemisphere of the sun, and so some of it's probably going a little to the south, but in general we also had this occur. I was talking about this for like 3-4 days, saying watch this filament, and here blast off, and then we get another one right here that follows, and they go pretty, they're pretty fast. It's not like it's this long drawn out explosion. We have a whole bunch of other stuff happening too that you can see in the 304, and so that's definitely affecting the solar wind. Just because you don't see in the chronograph doesn't mean that it doesn't have an influence on the solar wind. Chronograph is showing super high density streams of plasma coming out. But this is all influencing solar wind too, making it more volatile. All these sunspot groups have now hit the western limb, but we got these ones now rotating into the strike zone, and we have a big sunspot that's rotating in right now. But we are in this solar storm as we speak. I go to the solar wind, which I guess I closed out. So here we are. Here's our real-time solar wind. And this is set for 7 days. So let's make this 3 days. Here we are. I think I go one more on this. Yeah, there we go. And so we see this enhanced stream of solar wind coming in. This is when I started talking about it right here with the live stream or so, because I saw the field strength go up. This is our interplanetary magnetic field. So we're measuring the actual magnetic field of just space at the L1 Lagrange point. And so we see it ramp up, and it actually goes all the way up to 20 there, which is pretty strong. Normal field strength is 5, sometimes it's less, sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's a little enhanced, it's like 7. But here's 20 nanotesla right there. But you see it's all southward component negative quality, right? Often it has this volatile nature to it. It's kind of swinging back and forth. That's what we had with that cannibal CME. That was a little bit of a dud. If we go back to the 7-day, we will see that. We had this enhanced, we had 2 pockets of enhanced solar wind with these storms here, but you see that the red line is kind of oscillating, especially this one. This is the cannibal one where multiple coronal mass ejections combined, and they just were swinging like crazy. Yeah, here to fill you in, of course, this is Sunday. It's the day of the sun. So, when there's solar stuff happening, it's a perfect time to report on this. So this oscillation of that southward component from negative to positive, reduced the strength of that storm. But again, now look here. It is not in any way or shape or form spiking into the positive. It's sustained southward negative vector component and going quite deep too. If we look at that section, let's zoom in on the 1 day. If we go here, that's pretty strong, folks. That's a 20 and a negative 17. That's what gives you a G3 storm, right? So it's not necessarily the solar flare. The classification, M or X class, that's important. It's not the only variable. It's not like the stronger the solar flare, the stronger the solar storm. It's just not a perfect connection. It generally works out, but it's really what's the magnetic field strength coming in from the solar wind? What are the qualities of it? And so you see here 20 for total strength, negative 17 for the southward, meaning that the solar wind is able to push deeper into Earth's magnetic field. It's able to go from where it normally is connecting at 5 nanotesla now to 20 nanotesla. Magnetic fields drop off with the inverse square law. So you're actually going quite a bit deeper now into the plasmasphere at 20. That G5 storm went to 73. That's going really deep into Earth's magnetic field and plasmasphere. And then at the same time, you have this really strong connection with the southward component to Earth's northward component, allowing almost all of the solar mass and energy to get injected into the plasmasphere, triggering these new flows of plasma in the plasmasphere and also the ionosphere, and then that creates those electric currents, really powerful, which triggers those magnetic field swings. And there's a whole bunch of other factors too. But to keep it fairly simple, that's what we have happening. And so you see this 3-hour index of geomagnetic volatility here, printing a 6.67. So very, very, that's a G3 storm. And so when I woke up and I saw it, it said G3. It's like, what? I mean, I was expecting this to occur, but I guess I was thinking more like a G2 or something, but here we are. And I was kind of expecting it, though, to be stronger than maybe we thought because of lunar energy dynamics. Right now, it's the new moon. Right now, it's the new moon. We have the moon and the sun together in the sky traveling like this. The moon's slightly moving ahead now because it occurred basically this morning, early this morning, if you're on the west coast of the United States like I am. But what we've seen with some of the probes that we sent around the moon is that when you have solar wind interacting with the moon, it creates these noisy, disturbed regions. See this here? They did a variety of surveys on this, and a variety of data graphics are created. It also changes the density. It creates this this void because the moon is absorbing it, right? But then around it on the sides, you get this enhanced volatility in the solar wind. So these noisy regions, and these, what happens is plasma in space, they form these superconductors and they basically get frozen. So what often happens is you have these plasma and magnetic fields are locked together traveling through space, and they're only they are expanding like this a little bit and separating into plasma chains and things. But when you have the moon right there, very close to Earth, if we talk about the Earth to Sun distance, right? All of a sudden causing some of this to get broken up, it becomes noisy, chaotic. Now that's impacting the Earth. That's going to enhance that solar storm, I would figure. That there's a lot more research that needs to be done on this. But from what we do know, the moon being in front of the Earth during solar wind, which happens every 28 days, does change the actual qualities of the solar wind. And so during a solar storm, that effect is going to be greatly enhanced depending on the actual solar storm dynamics. And so we have that happening right now. And you can also think about the archetypal energies in terms of, okay, we have these certain energetic qualities to a new moon, because the moon is connected to our reality and our bodies, very much connected to women and their hormonal cycles, but also like the archetypal energy matrix and our ability to manifest. We're supreme manifesting generators on this planet. I don't think any other animal is as good as manifesting things into reality as humans are because of these thumbs and this guy. And so the moon's connected to all that. It's connected to fortune and luck and all these things. And we have a new moon, which is the beginning of that synodic cycle in Leo, the sign of the sun, and a solar storm impacts the moon at the same time. So it's perfect. And it was forecasted to come in yesterday, but no, it actually came in reality exactly with that new moon impact. Because if I go over here, I think it was 11:13 UTC time for the new moon. So if we zoom out, we can look at where 11:13 is. And so here is 11:13 UTC right about here. For the solar wind, there's a 1 hour delay on this. And so we would actually want to look at the 10 a.m. data to see exactly what was happening during the peak of that new moon. Here's roughly our parameters: 13 for the total strength, -12 for the southward component. But just like a couple hours later is when we hit that peak, right after that new moon. Just a couple hours after that new moon was exact is when we hit the peak of the storm. And it now seems to be changing. If you look here, we see that the southward component is finally going into the positive zone, showing that this coronal mass ejection is kind of right at the tail end of that. So very, very powerful. We also have we're going to get back to the moon and everything, because I would like to talk about that because it's being energized right now. My moon is at 12 Leo. So, it's really right on my moon. This moon's on my moon. But we have our intensitygram here for the sun going from August 1st to the 4th, and we'll see some pretty cool things if we give this a look. And thank you for that super. I saw that. Thanks so much. Yeah, the sun kissed the moon. That's right. Here we have all these sunspots. We've been talking about them a lot. They've done a lot of cool things. They gave us 3 G1 storms. They're rotating out. We had these filaments and stuff blast off from here. These guys have been flaring quite a lot, so worth watching. They're coming to that zone now. But look at what pops up over here. We get a really big sunspot start to show up on the far side of the sun. Was on the far side, now on the eastern limb. So look at that guy there. We'll get some other imagery to look at a little bit more clearly, but it's just like this kind of behemoth just rotating in. And people have been watching this because if we go to our helioseismic map, we can see this big spot there, and this whole cluster actually kind of forms a ring, has been on the backside, and people have been watching this, and it's quite large, right? And this is now about 12, 14 hours out of date. They update it once a day. And so this is now actually rotated in. We can give it a look specifically, but this is really kind of the big daddy for the cycle. I mean, look at, these guys have been flaring a lot, very powerfully. Look at the size of this core though, and keep in mind it's kind of distorted because it's on that far eastern limb, so it's not showing up as clearly as it could be, but this is just now rotating in. And so in about 7 days, it's going to be Earth direct, which would put that at August 11th or so, August 10th, August 11th, so right after the Lion's Gate. And we can go to our magnetogram to give an initial look. But I also, let's maybe zoom in this way. Here are the ones that we have right now in the strike zone, 3772, 3774. We have also, some stuff happening up here. But really, just look at the size on this one coming in. I don't know the number yet. I didn't look it up. I should have looked it up, I suppose. And it's not alone. We also see some stuff coming up there. But really, this guy is, has that super deep, strong, large core. This is kind of that zone right there. But it's also just very broad. And so we have more solar activity coming in. This is not an isolated, this storm that we're in right now, this G3. It's not like, oh, that's it, and then it's going to be 3 days of nothing, or 3 weeks of nothing, or 3 months of nothing. Thanks for the francs, Brian. Thanks so much. We have quite a bit ahead of us. We can see that with our X-ray flux here. I'll pop this full screen, and this is 2 weeks here, and so we see here we see X-ray flux is lower. We are in solar maximum, but it was lower. And then starting right around July 27th, all of a sudden, everything kicked up and has stayed elevated. And now we see that we are still in this elevated regime. I mean, look how clearly that difference is. It's like all of a sudden, it instantly just shifted to the next gear. And so that's where we are right now. And we are going to have that continue because we have those other sunspots. We're now in the Earth's direct zone. And we have this big monster sunspot rotating through. That's very likely the one that caused that X16 flare that occurred. That, the most powerful solar flare of solar cycle 25. It was exactly on the opposite side of the sun from the Earth, blasted off. We all saw that solar storm. I did a live stream on that. I think it was a live stream. And that is that sunspot group. Now saying, hey, what up, everybody? So hopefully it doesn't blast anything too crazy for us, but these are all good energies and light codes to absorb if you are doing the work. You're outside grounding, you're eating good, you're moving your body, you're treating your body with respect, you're cleaning your mind out, you're doing everything you treat your body and your mind like a temple. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you so much. Amazing. So if you're doing that, you're doing the work, which is great. I think a lot of us are. Then these energy codes coming in are really beneficial. I have quite a few graphics here, but yeah, let's do this one too. The other thing to keep in mind as well is that this is solar maximum. So we've kind of zoomed out now. We just looked at 2 weeks of X-ray flux, right? We saw that increase. Well, this is sitting on top of the wave of solar maximum. So here's solar minimum. If I step off this way, you see that this is like January 2019, we have like into 2018 here. Hey, Robert, thank you so much. God bless. But we see our irradiance go up. Now, keep in mind, I'm not going to be anyone to mislead you. This irradiance scale is not going from 0 to like 1,000, right? You always have to look at the scale. So this is the y-axis, and it goes from 1,360.5 watts per square meter to 1,363.5 watts per square meter. So if we were to make that 0, this change here wouldn't be that much. But the reason they have it set here is because the sun has a fairly stable solar irradiance in terms of its total output, but it does undergo these changes going from solar minimum to maximum. And for example, you would show the 0 if you were measuring the solar radiance at other planets, because then you would have all the different curves at different zones. Mercury would be way up here, and then Jupiter would be lower, and Pluto would be absolutely at the bottom because it receives much less solar radiance per square meter. But just because this isn't average to zero doesn't mean it's not important that we have this big increase here, right? The other thing that they found with solar cycles is that certain frequencies of light increase quite dramatically. So total solar irradiance changes slightly in terms of the absolute scale. Though, of course, Earth is used to this amount, so when there's any changes, that's changing the system. But things like X-ray flux, which is one of the most highly vibrational wavelengths of light, right? It's a higher frequency than visible or ultraviolet, right? Then it goes X-ray, then gamma. That goes up by like an order of magnitude during solar maximum. So those are the ones that are the most ionizing. You know, if radio flux increases from the sun, that's interesting, and radio waves are very, very interesting. That's where the Schumann resonances live. But they're not ones that are going to break molecular bonds like an X-ray would or a gamma ray. And so these most vibrational wavelengths of light, they increase like 5x, 10x during solar cycles, making that very significant. So yeah, just a lot happening right now. I just kind of want to go back to this one more time to remind you that we have this second storm likely coming in very soon. Again, I'll step off. Here's the first one. This is what we're dealing with right now. And then on August 2nd, you see this other one get launched here, which honestly I think is probably a more significant solar storm. And it was faster. So I don't think it caught up, but I think it's probably set to impact pretty soon, in less than 24 hours. We'll see. We'll find out. But this one, look at the velocity again. You know, it's like good, you know. But here is one that's much faster. Yeah, and I think it's also a more clear halo too. The first one seems to kind of be weak on this side here. You want this to be spreading out all directions because we're looking at the sun. So this first one here kind of gets filled in by this other flare there. It doesn't mean that they're actually kind of combining. They're from different regions. But the other one was much more of a full halo, just a little asymmetric with more coming off because of that explosion on the western limb. So yeah, very, very big energetic shifts happening right now with the Leo new moon. I think that's one of the big things in general that's important to keep track of is the space weather, if you're interested in this type of stuff, because you can look at the astrology and the planetary alignments and you can make certain assumptions, and all that's great. And I'm not discounting anyone's work because I'm standing on the shoulders of these people. But the future is to be incorporating the real-time data that we're getting from our sun and the solar system at large. Was there a big solar storm impact during the new moon or full moon, right? That's important. That changes the energetics completely. Was there a huge gamma ray burst, like going back to October 9th, 2022? That Aries full moon had a gamma ray burst come in, the strongest ever. I haven't heard of any other astrologer talk about that, but it's the strongest energetic explosion that we've ever measured, ever, from 2.4 billion light years away, and they consider it, as of right now, a 1 in 10,000 year event. That Aries full moon back on October 9th, 2022 is clearly a very important full moon, but if you're not tracking the space weather, you think it's just some normal full moon. So this new moon here is quite potent because of all this enhanced solar activity. We have a very potent full moon coming up with the Aquarius one because of this double grand cross situation that's pretty wild. A lot of tension building in August, and so we have this kind of energizing it all to begin with, starting the new synodic cycle. So it's very fitting, all in Leo, right? All in Leo. We also have Venus here at the critical 29th degree of Leo, and she is in a yod to Pluto and to Neptune. This is kind of like a faded energy. And this is her at this completion step in Leo. It's bringing back the energies of Venus retrograde in Leo in 2023. And then she moves into Virgo. I think that's going to be great because, you know, Venus needs to be a little picky at times. She needs to really figure out what she wants and like go for the best. She's been playing around, fooling around too much. So that's going to be good for her to go into Virgo. And then this Mercury retrograde starts. Her ruler is going to be going back into Leo. And so we have a lot of great energies there. This situation here, this moon-sun combo, right, their conjunction is being sextiled by Jupiter and Mars, both 3 degrees. Mars is at 9, Jupiter is at 15. They are at 12. And so we actually also have a Mars-Jupiter conjunction coming up. That occurs about once every 2 years or so, right? Mars does a rotation about every 2 years, catches up. So that's fairly significant. It happens just as often, basically, as a Mars-Saturn conjunction. We talk about those a lot, but we don't talk too much about the Mars-Jupiter conjunction. That's all happening in Gemini. So everything Gemini is going to be just boosted up even more. Mars is going to bring energy to that, and Jupiter's already expanding it all. And it's occurring right after this new moon, and a little bit before that full moon in Aquarius. So we have the Jupiter-Saturn square that is going to be active during this August. It already is, 3-degree orb. We see 18 here, we see 15 there, but it's going to become exact. And so this is kicking off a really wild August. You know, Leo season's already been spicy. It's about to get spicier. I really recommend, if you aren't already, you have to be watching all my videos because I lay this out. And if you skip some of the videos, then you could be left sometimes a little clueless. But I talk about all the different factors across the videos. And when you watch each one sequentially, then you're like, aha, it makes sense. You have that in the back of your mind as you're watching the space weather report, right? Which sometimes I don't talk about these archetypal energies. I just want to make sure there's nothing else that I'm missing here. I think I've covered everything. That's the total solar radiance, the X-ray flux, that big old sunspot baddie coming in. And yeah, our real-time solar wind, it is looking like it's now G2. You know, it fluctuates. Sometimes it's G3, and then each of these plots is different. So right now it's saying it's G2. If we go here, this is the most accurate measure. We can stay on our HP60 index here, our measure of geomagnetic activity. Here's the KP index. We see that 6.67 here. This is a 3-hour measure. And so that's G3, that red line. And here we see 5.667, which is at G2. So that's why that just happened. So it's been a G3 storm, now G2. You kind of look at the whole thing, just in general, extremely volatile magnetic fields right now on our planet, specifically in the polar cusp region, North Pole, South Pole. So yeah, spicy is great. If you have any questions, please ask them now. Do @Stefan Burns. And yeah, I'll answer a few questions. I don't want to go too long on this to keep this live stream a little shorter, more condensed for you all and for everyone that's going to be watching it later. But please ask some questions if you have about the sun, the storm. Yeah, so looking forward to reading those, answering some questions. If you want to watch a long, like a 2-hour video of me talking about the sun and a whole bunch of things, then you can go to Ismael Perez's channel on YouTube, The Real Ismael Perez, and I have a live stream I did with him last night. We talked for like 2 hours. It was a good conversation. It kind of goes all over the place. I answer some questions or give at least my thoughts on some questions that are a little outside the normal box, you could say. So yeah, that is a good place to, you know, if you want something to listen on a Sunday afternoon, just kind of like a la Joe Rogan, just put it on and do your things, clean the house. That'd be a fun one to put on. I'm not seeing any questions, so unless you got something, @Stefan Burns. If I don't get something the next minute, then I'm going to sign off. Okay, here's one. How does this affect having one's moon in Libra? Well, Libra would be trine to Leo, or sextile to Leo, so there could be an effect there, but it really depends on the degree. I would only say it's really significant if you're going from 9 to 15 degrees of Libra. But someone with their moon in Leo, like me at 12 degrees, this new moon's exactly conjunct on my moon. That's more significant energetically, but it depends on the transits. If you have your moon in Libra and then let's say this new moon's hitting your Jupiter in Leo and it's sextiling your Libra moon, hey, that's a big thing there, and there's a whole bunch of ways it could work, but this is more Leo energy. We do have some stuff in Libra. We have Black Moon Lilith. We have the nodes, the South Node. And I think Juno just moved into Libra too. So you have all those energies that you're working with. You have the feminine energies, the good wife with Juno, but also the dark mistress with Lilith. And then the South Node. What are the things that you need to release and let go of working with your moon? All sextile to this one. Where can I find those longer duration chronographs? You can make them. Soho Movie Theater. You can type in Soho, SOHO Movie Theater, and it'll pop right up on Google. Are you going to grow my hair back? Am I going to grow my hair back out? I don't think so. Right now, I like it short. It's been nice. Yeah. More questions, please, if you have them. Otherwise, I'm going to sign off. But in general, just a big storm. Kind of unexpected, I would say. I past 2 days have been focused more on like other type of content. I'm sure you've seen that, the grand star seed awakening, then also the great epoch of Saturn. So I have been tracking this, but I haven't had solar updates for 2 days now. So kind of out of nowhere, boom, G3 storm. Do the effects differ at all depending on where on Earth we are? Is it different in South Africa compared to the US? Yeah, good question. That's a good question. Most of this energy is funneled into the polar cusp region. So the North Pole, the South Pole. And so the further you get away from that, the weaker these energetic swings are. And doesn't mean that the entire Earth isn't undergoing a geomagnetic storm. But if you're up, like way up north in Finland or something, you are definitely having bigger energy swings just with your environmental energy and therefore your body and everything. But South Africa, pretty, or South America, any of those zones that are mid-latitude to equatorial, things are much more chill. But we also can think about this a little more quantumly about how the Earth itself is undergoing these changes. And if you are really connected to Earth, then you'll feel them yourself. So, but yeah, different parts have different connections. Are sunspots the cause of solar wind? Are there other things that produce the winds? Lastly, how fast can they get? Is there a record? Well, yeah, so in general, the sun is just always pumping out solar wind, but sunspots will increase the solar wind. You'll notice an enhancement in the solar wind and an enhancement of the volatility of the solar wind when there's lots of sunspots on the Earth-facing side. And then a solar storm, pumps it up even more because it's flinging plasma into space and broadcasting that out. And then you also ask other things that produce winds. Yeah, you have things like plasma eruptions, like prominences and filaments that destabilize. Basically, we're just talking about charged particles leaving the sun, which is, mass, leaving the sun and going out into interplanetary space. If we were to move the sun, it would just be space. Then we put the sun in, and all of a sudden it creates this stream of solar mass and energy outwards. And that's the solar wind. So anything that's being erupted from the sun and leaving the sun is enhancing the solar wind. Why do I love you so much? I don't know. Moon in Taurus, Sun in Sagittarius, Ascendant in Pisces. How do you see this being affected? Well, your moon is square to this new moon. Your sun is trine to it in Sagittarius, and your ascendant is in Pisces. So you have Neptune and Saturn there. So you're going through kind of a formative period with who you are as a person, your outward expression. But Neptune is also allowing you to see and visualize and dream how that can be expanded and better. Once Saturn exits Pisces, you'll kind of feel some of that weight taken off. But in general, I think there's a little bit of an odd competition between your sun and moon right now, because moon in Taurus is being square, but your sun is being trined. And so working to integrate your moon, your lunar and your solar energies may be good for you, Naomi. How is this time close to Krishna time about 5,000 years ago? Are they similar? Well, if we talk about yuga cycles, there was more consciousness back then. We just are now kind of exiting Kali Yuga. So that was, according to some calculations from Indian mystics, that's like 500 AD was with the depths of Kali Yuga. If you look at the archaeological and historical record, 500 AD is where we have no information from Europe. The Roman Empire collapsed, and from 500 to 600 AD, we know almost nothing. I read an entire book on that time period. It was fascinating for England, and also talked about France and other places, but we just know almost next to nothing about 500 to 600 AD. It's this complete dark zone, and that perfectly lines up with the depths of Kali Yuga. You had this grand empire collapsing that was super egotistical at the end with its emperors, and then just complete chaos and probably war bands and factions just led society for 100 years. We don't see any grand monuments being built, and even like hill forts and stuff are very hard to come by. So it's just like small little villages spread out. A very low consciousness period. Now we're coming out of that, but we're still rising out of Kali Yuga. How does grounding help minimize the effects of solar storms on our bodies, aches and pains? It just in general takes excess charge that you build up, takes it and gives it to the earth, right? Because we're conductive, the earth is conductive. And so if you have more charge in the earth, it will flow naturally to the earth. But you have to be in conductive contact. So you have to, use your feet or your hands. Feet are typically better because they're designed for that. And when you take this excess charge out, you have less free radical activity in your body, which means less inflammation, less oxidation. And as a result, your metabolic systems can work better. Because imagine you're like painting some masterpiece, and then you have like a school, like a kindergarten school behind you. You're Van Gogh, and they're just like taking all their brushes and painting at the same time. It's going to be complete chaos. You won't be able to make your masterpiece, a coherent piece of art. But with all the kindergartners there, they're just going to be throwing paint on it. That's all the free radical activity. There's no rhyme or reason to it. But if you take the preschoolers out, then all of a sudden you can create this coherent painting. That painting is your body and your health and your wellness. You want coherence in your body. And so free radicals are all the preschoolers. You want those out in this situation, right? We love little kids and preschoolers and everything. We're glad that there are people still making kids. But we don't want them interrupting Van Gogh. And so grounding helps you to get the preschoolers out of the room so you can paint your masterpiece, you could say. I think I'm going to wrap it up there. Really like your multidimensional vision. Hello from Peru. I'll answer this one last question. I want to ask you if you've ever visited the spiritual vortices around Sedona, Arizona, moving there soon. No, but I need to. And there's nothing stopping me from going. But one of the things I want to do is I want to have certain geophysical equipment with me when I go. Because I want to do some measurements there. And so specifically, I want to get a magnetometer, which measures the magnetic field. And you can pick up a cheap one for like $8,000 or so. It's like $8,000. So as soon as I have enough float, I'll probably pick up one of those, and then I can start going to these energetic vortices around the U.S., specifically in the Southwest, because that's where I think we had a massive impact into America, like millions and millions and millions of years ago. There's some really interesting magnetic anomalies that form a perfect impact circle and signature. And so I think that's why that energy is so spiritually charged and all these vortices exist. And hopefully I can get some data on that by actually doing my own magnetic surveys. But I just haven't wanted to plop down $8,000 for a magnetometer. $8,000 is $8,000. But at some point it'll all work out, and I'll go there, I'll visit, and I'll get some really cool data from that. And also, I'm the ultimate piece of equipment too. Everyone's body, actually just sitting there feeling the energies. I think that'd be fantastic. So I hope you have a good move. Thank you all for jumping into the live stream. I hope you ride out this storm well. And it looks like it's starting to subside. But again, remember, we have that second one very likely coming in very soon. And so today, Sunday, typically a day of rest for people. I would say continue on that path of, keeping it nice, easy, calm, relaxed. Chamomile tea, really good for you. Deep breath work, going outside, grounding, some light movement. Or if you are feeling energized, then embrace that. Go to the gym, for example. Like today, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to have a hard workout, and then I'm going to really deeply relax afterwards. Probably do some yoga nidra, go to the beach, ground and everything there. So it's good to kind of go with these swings as well. Sometimes when you have a lot of energy coming in, then you go with that. So then it's an easier time to relax afterwards. You create that swing in your autonomic nervous system. Thank you, Michael 222. God bless. thanks all so much for joining in today's video. I hope you found that valuable, and that I gave you a little bit of information as to what's happening. In general, big changes in August, and it's starting right now with this new moon synodic cycle with Leo, 12 degrees, and Venus has a big transformative change that she's going through right now, and you're going to see big changes in the feminine archetypal energies over the next 30 days or so. We also have Mercury retrograde starting today. So in general, I'd say if you can take a step back and go a little bit more eagle-eye perspective, I think that's going to be really good for you. And just this tumultuous August period that seems that we're about to have kicked off with this is going to eventually end. September will be different than August. So wishing you all well, love you all, God bless, and I will see you all